What's going on? So, um, it's been a minute since we have like a guest on the show. Um, because I've been going over the PKC curriculum, the Personal Connect curriculum, which you should definitely watch all those videos because they all have a reaction video connected to them, and it's really like a real world experience, which I'd like to get into more. Maybe I'll add another segment, but I hope you have. Ooh. Oh my gosh, I had a smoothie just before this and it's like stuck in my throat. Hello. So, I hope you're having a great day. and I hope you get something out of this conversation. It's a roller coaster. It's really cool to see again after a while, after a couple weeks, like diving into everyone's experiences, the experiences that everyone has that they don't try to make. It's just their dance journey. It's just their life. Um, and so my whole intention is to give you context for your dance journey, but also to show you that you don't have to necessarily just stumble into it. By learning from other people in the dance world, you can then make those choices and make those decisions intentionally. So, my name is Joel Casanova. I'm the creator and founder of Beat Hunter Dance, and this talk show exists to help your dance journey be healthy, productive, and 100% yours. All three of those things are possible. You need to think it first. So, I'm talking with a friend. Oh my gosh. I'm talking with my friend, James, and I hope you get a lot out of it. He has a lot of experiences. We have to tailor everything because he has so much experience in a lot of things, but it's also very organic, the things that he's gone into. Anyways, let me not get ahead of myself. Check out this conversation I had with James. How about we start about like what you do right now, like as a person outside of dance,
Yeah,
and then we'll because
sure.
obviously you're a person and everyone's a person, and then we kind of
Right, right.
breathe our dance into that, right? So, um, I know you have a family. I know you have a son who's a blossoming YouTuber. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll do a shameless plug for him at some point.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you can go ahead and start. Like, who are you outside of dance, and then we'll kind of dive into your dance journey, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, you sort of mentioned it, like, uh, husband and dad are kind of, first and foremost. Uh, I didn't have a real present dad growing up. Especially like maybe the first 10 years of my life. I think my pops, who's my grandpa, was primarily the father figure, other than my mom, who also, like, for many years I used to celebrate her on Father's Day, um just because she was sort of double duty for around, like, the first decade of my life. And
Mhm.
so, like, I'm really like, I feel like I feel the need to be as present with Xander as possible. Yeah, so
Yep.
so he really is the center of my world at the moment. So I just, I I really I'm literally going to pick him up after this. We're gonna have a daddy Sunday, um and just have a blast. And so, I think being a supportive husband and you know a really present dad is paramount at the moment.
Yep.
Outside of dance, like, other things that, like, I you know uh that still are interconnected with movement is I'm still I'm a visual artist as well. You know I do It's hilarious, but I do lots of crazy paintings.
Let's go.
Yeah, yeah, I do lots of crazy paintings. I use, like, defeated materials. Um, Over COVID, when I wasn't able to move as much, I needed to find some new way to either create dance. So I started to get into dance films and sort of pivoted to dance filmmaking for a while, and sort of flexing new muscles in movement. And that was really, that's been amazing. how to create screen dance and movement and dance for
Mm.
film. And then also like with I was a big raver in the 90s. And so um I had I had a billion flyers from all over the Midwest and Arizona and Canada, and I just started being like, how can I like place these and do some sort of, defeated materials, collage work, and
Oh, cool.
and also, being a writer back, in my high school days, um, graffiti art was, obviously a big, a big part of, you know, staying up late and going out and, you know, I feel like I was a pretty big toy back then, but, but now I really enjoy it and have had the time to sort of work on my skills as far as
Mm.
lettering and style and whatnot. And so,
Yeah.
I actually teach that as part of, you know, one of the units in my hip hop dance and culture class here at ODU. So
No
so
way.
everything's sort of, it's all connected. I
Yeah.
have a Harley. I ride my motorcycle around whenever I can. You know,
That's sick.
like like my wife and I are like with Xander. We're always traveling. So like
Mm.
uh, we do world schooling. It's like a little play
Yeah.
on like homeschooling, but like we really try to get Xander out and like sort of shift his perspective as opposed to like reading, and seeing the Grand Canyon in a book. Like we
Yeah.
went to the Grand Canyon,
Yeah.
and you
It's
got
very
to see it
different. I
live.
can
Like,
imagine.
whoa, it's
Yeah.
massive, and so like giving
Mm.
him that sort of perspective as like how we're like sort of, you know, these really tiny elements of this giant world,
Mm.
and how we sort of navigate that throughout our lives. And so that's been really cool. And then
Dope.
yeah, like like how you're doing like your YouTube,
Yeah.
and like Xander like for years has been asking me to like do a YouTube channel with him.
Oh.
So yeah, and I was really reluctant at first, because I was like at the time he was 6, and he was like watching all the like, Ryan's World, and there's like these two Eastern European boys that are like he always watches, and then there was like Panda, who I think was connected with this other thing, and then there's like Libby's World, and like he's like watching like Ninja Family, and I'm just like,
What is
I'm like,
happening?
this is a lot. Yeah, I was like, this is a lot, like you want me to like produce this stuff? And he's like, yes, Dad, I want to produce these videos. and so I had to do a lot of research, and I had to like, figure out like some cool things that I learned was like no one can comment on his videos at the moment because he's underage, and
Mm.
um nobody can contact him directly and different things because like it's the internet. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
I get uneasy about certain things, and and so we started working on it, and he came up with the Xanderverse. um like I'm more of a facilitator
Mm.
for his channel. Like I feel like he comes up with all the ideas. Like he has like this little tagline that's like, because he loves gaming, and he's like, that's it for the Xanderverse, but there's always another level or something like that. And it's awesome. Like he came up with all
Yeah.
that stuff himself, and so like yeah, like shameless plug. Let me see,
Check out
where is this
Xanderverse. Let's
pinned
go.
thing? Yeah, we're gonna get the Xanderverse up in here, but let's see if like it'll come up on the screen. I don't know. Can you see
That's
it pretty
so
good?
funny. Yeah, it's
Yeah, but that's
scan it.
like,
Scan the QR
click
code.
click the QR code,
Like and
but like
subscribe.
for yeah, 100. Like he's always like, hit that notification bell. And then I was like, oh, bud, I think you're too young for the notification bell. He's like, okay, well, we'll take that out then. He's like, you can edit that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
sure.
You know, but he's amazing. He cracks me up, and if
Mm.
whoever is watching this, like, if you are like a movement lover, which I'm sure you must be if you're watching this podcast, but every time he gets a subscriber, he literally does a dance.
Oh,
Like I don't film them all, but like he'll do like a little happy dance, and it'll be like
that's
the little
awesome.
Xanderverse happy dance. So you want to put movement out in the world, like
Like,
and subscribe
like
his
the
channels
subscribe.
because it works every time, you
That's
know.
awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's me in a nutshell. I don't know,
Yeah,
at
that's
the
dope.
moment, like, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it was really interesting. Like when I first started this talk show, the whole idea was like dance is a part of your like life in general. So like we're like not experimenting. We're talking and like well we're experimenting as dancers, but like we're talking about you, James, like the dancer side of you. But that is like one compartment in all of James, you know. So it's like the other compartment is like family, and so like
Mhm.
how like getting other creative things like painting and like you used to put the flyers and stuff and graffiti like it's all like creativity that feeds into dancing. You know, it's like
Yeah.
okay, so like, and then vice versa. Like you do creative things in one area to do other things. Like my job is dancing, just like yours is, and so like I try to find like other dances or like other creative things outside of it, because then
Yep.
it's like I'm doing the same thing every day of my life, and it's like even just a different pivot of like a different style to then come back to hip hop. You know,
Yep.
so
Yeah, I mean it's multimodal, right? And they
yeah,
all inform each other,
yeah,
So it's like, like I think it's impossible for me to like compartmentalize them or like
yeah,
separate them. I feel like they all mush together.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
speaking of which, like, when did you start dancing to begin with? Like, who taught you about
Yeah.
that, or where did you see it first, or was it like a specific person or moment that happened?
Yeah. Like a lot of times so my grandmother worked in the Chicago school systems as a like a vision tester.
Okay.
So uh, she had summers off, and so
Oh,
there were these summers that like a lot of times I stayed at my grandparents' house. My mom was working, sometimes 2 3 jobs a week.
mm,
So um, and so there were just times where when she was working hard and Grams was home, like I would go to Grams's house with where my pops was,
yeah.
and they had a park. It was called the Waters Park. I don't know the name of the school, but there was a public school there, and then right across the street was the blacktop, and then there was a swing set, and then
Okay.
monkey bars, and like the wheel of death, like I forget what, like merry-go-round,
Yeah,
where like
yeah,
you
yeah.
like sort of hang on to it and be
And
like
just
horizontal.
experience
People,
G-force for the first time as a child.
exactly. And so there were basically these, there were these kids, across the street, and they were doing this movement. I'd never seen it before in my entire life. I was digging the music. It was more like electro funk or electro rock, like at
Okay.
that time, like um, very sort of like trying to think of like Kraftwerk. Like it didn't have. It was more of an electronic sound or synthesizer sound, not like boom bat yet, or
Oh,
it's just
interesting.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was still, it's kind of still like was like predating that, it's like,
Cool. Interesting.
like mid 80s, and so like they were just doing this movement. I was like, this is dope. Like, what are they doing? I started at the swings, right? And then like the next day or 2 days or whatever, they're back out there and sort of moved a little closer, and then moved a little closer. And then, by like the second week, like they obviously saw me like stalking them, and and instead of being like, instead of being jerks about it, like they just like they looked at me, and like they'd make eye contact, and I get nervous and run away, and then I go in my grandparents' backyard and practice, do the moves that I thought they were doing and stuff like that. And then finally I just got enough courage to get close to them, and they were like, do you want to try,
Oh,
you know and
that's
like these
awesome.
are like, yeah, these are like 15 to 16, 17, 18, maybe 19 years old tops, you know what I mean?
Mm, mm-hmm.
And so like I was like 9 or 10,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, it could have went either way. And basically they invited me in, and I probably looked like a, I had no idea what I was doing because I didn't.
Yeah.
And but they cheered me on. They're like, "Oh,
Oh, that's awesome.
like you're doing amazing!" Oh! And so like I felt that dopamine, and
Yeah.
I was like, "This is cool as hell." And
Yeah.
didn't know I was you know diving into a culture
Mm.
or any of that knowledge. I had no idea. All I knew is that these guys were really cool. They were teaching me how to do this movement, and then I think the following summer, like I started traveling around with them and like, um, doing sidewalk shows
What?
like heading downtown and had our bucket and did the
Yeah.
you know did the whole thing and like
Busking. Yeah.
like I get I get a little bit of money and go buy some candy and be happy and
Uh,
like I was
Day
like this is
made.
awesome. Yeah, and so
So was that like the
yeah, yeah.
entire training process? Like it was like purely street dance, essentially, like literally street dance, like on the sidewalk and everything.
It was straight breaking. Yeah, so it was like b-boying and
Sick.
breaking and yeah, and that was all I knew at that time was like,
Mm.
rocking basically. We called it going off. Like
Okay.
that's what they would say that oh we're going to go off today, and then like and then we would go and like go rock out somewhere, Um and yeah, like we just sort of like, it's just us and, me and the neighborhood kids. And we just had fun,
Yeah.
like, like doing what we were doing, it was cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
that's first of all, I think it's
Yeah. Yeah.
really interesting. Like you say, they called it going off. So like how slang terms kind of like evolve because now we say like, oh yo, he went off. We're like, yo, he's going
Mhm.
off right now. So that's really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
so at
Like I
what
didn't
point?
hear the word b-boying for like,
Really?
maybe they were saying it, but I didn't hear the word breaking or b-boying
That's
um,
like
for like for a while. And I mean, like I'm ADHD, so they could have been saying it, but I just didn't know. You know
right.
what I mean?
Just like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm here to
I was just
dance.
like, "What's
Listen.
that move? Show me how to do it." You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I was like, "This is cool as hell."
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
So,
awesome. Where was the first time you got like formal training? Like, was it like until you were
oh
like
yeah,
in your teens or like adult or like what? When did
yeah.
that get interjected?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, right? Because it's like, like what is training and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
Where it's like, like when I was a kid in breaking, it was like, you know, like you have teenagers teaching you how to dance, right? And they may not have the pedagogical prowess to like break everything
Well,
down
today
to
class, yeah,
yes, exactly. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it was like literally it was like, you know, they do a move and then I would try to imitate it and be like, nah, that's not it. You do it again. Nah, that's not it. Do it
Yeah,
again. Nah, that's not it. You know what I mean? And so then
yeah.
they break it, they show it, and then I do it. Nah, that's not it. Until finally like that was it, And
Oh,
so
sick.
you really had to like sort of problem solve
Hmm.
like yourself, like you
Yeah.
had to like there wasn't someone breaking everything down for you, so it's
Hmm.
like you had to observe closely what their bodies were doing and then
That's
try
cool.
to emulate that is to the best of your ability. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so, it was like learning how to like read another language that, you
Yeah.
had, you know, like never seen before,
It's like immersion. It's like I'm
yeah,
in the place and no one speaks English here. I have to learn the language. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And
Wow.
so that was like, that was like sort of my introduction to like, dance other than like, uh, you know, cleaning in the house and dancing around to albums and different things like that with my
Yeah.
mom. But then I was also, coming from Chicago, house was huge. So,
Hmm.
after a few years of dancing that way, like I, really got into house movement and music. And then in the 90s in my high school years, and well into my college years, like I was a big raver. So I loved going to dirty warehouses all over Chicago, It was there was always like an element of like a scavenger hunt, because like you would have to they'd have what was called a map point. So like you call a number and then they say, "All right, the tickets are being sold over here." And then you'd have to go to that location and they'd be like, "All right, here's your ticket." And then here's where the location is and you have to go. And it was like,
Wow.
like yeah, like, it's like trying to be like mad stealthy, and then you find this warehouse and like you could hear the bass
From
from
the
blocks
outside.
away and you're like,
Yeah.
we're getting close. We're getting close. It's like it was a trip, It's like so that was a lot of fun and I really got into like you know, techno
Mhm.
and happy hardcore and like jungle music was so amazing. I loved it. Which eventually kind of you know transitioned into drum and bass and stuff like that. But like, yeah,
Interesting.
I just like had a blast going to those parties. And then like in college, like I went to school for baseball. Like that was what I thought like that was going to be my career. It's like
Oh, okay.
I was gonna play, yeah. And so
What
I
was the
I started
pivot?
at a
Yeah.
yeah, so I started at a D3 school my freshman year, and then um, went to a D1 school after that. And so like when you transfer to another school, especially one that is, I don't know if the rules still apply like this, but back then, um, if you transfer to another school that was a higher ranking, so you have D1, D2, D3, right?
Mhm.
D3 you don't have scholarships, but D1s you do. And so I
Oh,
started at a D3 school and then I got a scholarship to a D1 school the following year, right?
very cool.
And so yeah, and so you have to do this thing called like you have to redshirt, right? So you have to like sort of sit out a season. So
Oh, okay,
like
okay.
you when you transfer to another school, like you can't play for a year. And then basically that school had a dance program. And so I mean it's really weird, but like
Yeah.
I just remember like there was something happening at this time or in my memory. I just remember a lot of jocks like taking ballet court like classes and stuff like that. There was like this weird, like I feel like on Mr. Rogers, there was like a football player who took like ballet, and then I kind of remember like in the '80s, like Willie Galt like took ballet. Maybe I could be wrong, but like I was like, oh, there's a dance program, and I met this guy Izzy, who was actually a flamenco dancer because at the
Oh,
school I
cool.
went to at Northeastern in Chicago, there was a big, there still is, but there's a big flamenco program there as well that this woman, Dame Libby Kamiko, started. And he
Okay.
was just working the office, I think, as like a student worker at the time. And he saw me because I was like looking, I was like, oh, there's dance here. That's kind of cool. And then he like started talking to me and he's like, you should take modern class. You should take a modern dance course. And I was like, all right, that sounds
Sure.
cool. In my head, like I was thinking, oh, this will shave some time off my throws a second, give me some better footwork. I'll be more agile, with blocking and whatnot, because I was a catcher, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And and so and so I took this modern dance course because I thought modern dance was dance of the modern time, which it is, but not
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
head. What those words mean is
Oh,
not what
very
they meant
different.
to me
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
time. So I thought it was like, like a breaking class or hip hop or whatever, right?
No,
And so
yeah.
it's the first day of classes and I'm wearing this like Adidas tracksuit.
Yeah.
I'm like feeling myself and I'm like, oh, I got shell toed Adidas on. I'm like, you know, I was just loving every minute of it. And I walk into the class and everybody's like, and I'm like, what did I do? And they're like, you gotta take your shoes off, and I was like, I gotta wait, what? And they're like,
What?
yeah, you,
Why?
you have to be barefoot for this class. And I was like, okay. And so
What
I'm
are we
like,
doing right now?
sorry. And it's like I took my shoes and socks off, and then like we started, doing drop swings, and like I didn't know what was going on. Like this is so weird,
Yeah.
but after like a couple weeks, like I was like digging it. I was like, this is kind of cool, Like I'm like, it's something new. There's like nuances to it. Like I
Mm.
like the expression of it, and so I kind of got hooked. And by my junior year, I like at that school they had West African as well, which I really loved. This guy Donnie Hines was teaching there, and then I was taking jazz, and I was taking like throughout those 2 semesters, like I was like, okay, that was modern, that's cool. I'll keep doing modern. What's jazz? All right, let me do that. Oh, West African, that sounds cool as hell. And so I just kind of dove in really quick, like the
Mm.
following semester, and then my junior year, uh, dance was like, do you want a talent waiver? And I was like, what's that? And they're like, it's a scholarship. And
You're like,
and
hey.
I was like, okay. I'm like, and they're like, but you might not be able to play baseball anymore, because you won't, And so then I was like, I had to make a decision. And it was
Yeah.
dance or baseball. And there was just something, I don't know what it was, but there was something about dance that I was like, I'm really getting like, I felt like I was like absorbing a whole lot of new information, and there was something really
Mm.
like fulfilling about that. And there was like this like sort of new knowledge. Like I felt like I opened up
Yeah.
like a new level in something, where I was like, oh wow, like. And so yeah, I all of a sudden I was like that guy. I was like, I want to dance.
Like,
And
no,
so
you don't
like,
understand.
yeah, no, I'm
I'm giving
in
up
it,
baseball.
and like I don't think I have the videos anymore, but that like first like sort of end of semester dance concert, like like I do remember seeing me jump over like a briefcase. I think I was in like some sort of briefcase dance, and like you're supposed to be like this like beautiful like jeté over, like my feet are all like flexed, and like it's like I was just raw, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
just raw, and it was awesome, but
Mm.
yeah, like I just you know decided that's what I'm gonna do. And all my buddies thought I was crazy on the team.
Yep.
My pops had a hard time with that, because like there was potential for me to definitely play minor league ball, maybe go to Australia, and play in a farm league there, or
Uh,
play international baseball. Like there was all this potential, but like I don't know, like there was something about dance. I was like, this is it. I want to do this.
yeah.
So, and now a lot of those guys, they come to my concerts. You know what I mean? And they really love what I do. So they thought I was crazy at first, but
Yeah.
over time now they're like, all right, you know,
Yeah, it's
that's what you
literally
were supposed to do.
it's literally a dance movie. You're like, I'm
Yeah,
changing, I'm
yeah.
pivoting, and everyone's like, what are you doing? And you're like,
Yeah,
this is my
totally.
life now.
Yeah, totally. You mean like the 80s montage, just being like
Yes.
with the
Yeah.
book bag and
Yeah.
being like, oh, and then
Oh
seeing some
man, I
dance, and
miss
you're like,
big.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Produced.
yeah, yeah.
Done already.
Walking away from the baseball field.
Yeah. That is so
It's
funny.
like it disappears in the background.
Yeah.
Classic
Oh
cinema
man.
right there,
Yeah, right there. Done.
Billy
Directed
Elliot ain't
by.
got nothing on this story.
Oh man, that's funny.
But yeah,
So,
so
uh,
yeah, so
uh,
that's how it happened.
so you started combining everything, or you just dove straight into like concert dance specifically? Like, where did like street
Yeah,
dance start melding into that?
I mean that's a great question. So like I talked to some of my students about that, especially students who are primarily street dancers, and who their background is mostly social dance vernacular, right?
Mm.
And so when I didn't know how how jacked up it was to hear this at the time, but there was so many times that I was told You are such an amazing mover. You are so gifted in that area. You just need technique, right? And
Mm.
so yeah, and so I was like, all right, cool. I mean, yeah, all right, I'm down, and it's like, yo, like all kinds of dance has technique. You know what I
Technique,
mean?
yeah.
Like there's technique in breaking, there's technique in house, there's technique in, rave. Like like that's it's not just, you know, flailing around with
Mm.
zero structure or
Yeah.
any idea of embodied movement whatsoever. You know what I mean? It's like fully embodied. And so um
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
so like for a long time, like there was like sort of this weird separation where it was like, you know, especially in college, like there was like my studio practice at the university, which was like, taking, ballet, modern, jazz, West African. Um, if there was like a special topics course in something, I would try to take it or whatever, musical theater, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was like my studio practice at the clubs, which was, you know, almost every night was like in Chicago, there was like, Glee Club on Sundays at Crowbar, and then Red Dog on Mondays, and then, like Tuesday might be industry night. So you'd see like where are you gonna meet up? There might be a rave on a Friday, um, it's just like, the Elbow Room would have, well, that's later, but like Soul Summits were amazing. That was like maybe later into my dance world. But like Shelter was huge, I think, on Thursday nights in Chicago. Um,
And
it's just like
these are
there was
all
just location.
these are all dance events, or these locations, or these like a...
These are yeah, so these are thanks for asking that. Like so these are all like clubs in Chicago.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
So
okay.
like they're like yeah, and then like Halsted Street Cafe was like another like place that like had parties and different things like that. So it's like, you would go to the location, there'd be a list of DJs and you would just dance all night. Um
So you're getting
so
your street
like
training and like the evening, like
exactly.
night classes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't really know at the time like that's what it was. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know that
Hmm.
um like that was what's considered a studio practice. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's it's funny, but it's like, oh, I was doing research that whole time. Every club I went
Mm.
to, every night, every time I got to have a communal gathering, like dancing to house music and
Wow.
vibing with multiple people in space and like going to like some warehouse and hearing um jungle music and you just like dance and like you're like face to face with somebody or man like speaker dancing like I'm so hard of hearing now because like man I used to love like speaker dancing. It's like you just walk straight up to the speaker and you just feel that, you know what I mean? You're just like literally like this the speaker is like your partner and like you're just dancing like to it.
Yeah,
And
it's
just like
wild.
like feeling that resonance in your chest. Like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Um and so yeah, so like that was also part of my training, where it's like you're doing all that stuff and then as far as like this merging of those ideas, like there was a time where I mean, I feel like Chicago's evolved a lot in their dance scene, but like when I was there, it was very like I said earlier, compartmentalized. So
Mm.
like the jazz companies, the jazz dancers mostly gravitated to the jazz companies. The
Mhm.
ballet dancers
Yeah.
gravitated to the ballet companies. The modern dancers gravitated to the modern dancers. And then honestly, as far as hip hop goes, like there was one company and I danced with it for like maybe like 2 seasons, which was Culture Shock, and there was Culture Shock Chicago. I think Culture Shock is still around in
Yeah.
San Diego, maybe. Like I still feel like there might be like one place that is. I think that was the original Culture Shock. Anyways, I could be wrong,
Really?
but
I want
like,
to say there's
but
also
for
one
a
in
while,
DC. Culture
that's
Shock.
possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, that's crazy history. Okay, keep going.
yeah.
Sorry.
But there was like in like the late '90s, like mid late '90s, or even into 2000, like Culture Shock blew up for a minute, and there were
Mm,
like chapters in many different cities, and
mm.
it was sponsored by Nike, and so you basically, and it was hilarious because I was such a hater. Yeah, like I'm getting all this Nike gear, and I'm like, man, I'm an Adidas guy. What's going on here, But
I'm weak.
but hey, I liked all
The
the new
brand
clothes. That
loyalty.
was cool. Yeah, totally. But like like you do halftime shows, different things like that. Like I remember I think the Wendy's, collegiate all-star game, that was pretty cool. Like that was one that pops out to me. There was also I feel like we danced at there was maybe it was called Hoop Dreams. It was like a documentary that followed these two um like prospects for the NBA and like their life. And I think one of for their showing, like their premiere or whatever, we got to perform at that, on like the court where they trained,
Sick.
so just different cool things like that, but everything was separate,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
like all these dances. And so I think at the time, I like, even though like everything was separate, like I was dancing for, you know, for Ken von Heideke's Festival Ballet. I would do you know, three or four different nutcrackers, like I would do a spring ballet like concert with the Kalamazoo Ballet, up in Michigan. So like
Mhm.
I was like performing, as a ballet dancer. I was I danced with Deeply Rooted and Concert Dance Inc. and Hedwig, which were modern companies. And I would do seasons with them. For jazz, I was with the Joe Hall Dancers for like a bunch of seasons, and and then obviously I was dancing with like Culture Shock, and so like I was hustling, but like you know like I was getting exposed to all this different movement, and I was just like I got to a point where I was like, it might have been like 2000, 2001, and I
Mm,
remember this woman, Cameron Jarrett, came up to me, and we were just kind of, she was dancing for Melissa Thodos at the time, which was a modern contemporary dance company in Chicago.
mm.
And she was like, like the scene here is and it was kind of like her idea, but like the scene was like, she's like, I want to bring all my friends together, from these different worlds basically,
Yeah.
and create something new. And I was like, yeah, like that's what I'm like, I want to do. Cause I think I had just come back from ADF, and that blew my mind. Like all of a sudden I
ADF.
was like, wait, yeah, the American Dance Festival. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's in Durham, North Carolina. And I just remember like seeing so much dance, and dance that I'd never seen before, and people moving in ways that was like, uh, it was like another one of those new levels where I was like, oh wow, like modern dance is so much more than what I've been exposed to in Chicago. And you don't really know that. Like you only know what you're exposed to, right? And so like all of a sudden I got exposed to like 50 different kinds of ways that people consider what they do as
You're like,
modern dance,
what?
Yeah, yeah. And you're just like, what? There's even more, And so like after that I was like, yo, like, I really I want to do that with you. Let's do it. And so we did basically a pickup company, and the pickup company was called Instruments of Movement. And like we were just like, okay, you know like we're going to be multifaceted. We're not
Mm.
going to just do one genre of movement, and we're going to try to find ways to blend it together. And we did this show. I have it right here.
Let's go.
This is awesome. Yeah, it's called Shapeshifters.
Shape.
And does it have the date on it? That's hilarious. It does not, but I feel like it was like uh in it was definitely wintertime. Oh yeah, it was in January, January 11th through the 13th. And basically uh it blew up. Like we sold out all of our shows,
Sick.
and and all of a sudden like we had like funding, you know? And then it was like you know, for me, I was like, this is it. Let's do this. And Cameron
Mhm.
was like, she was like, well, I really like the pickup company idea. Like, I think she was getting like she was focused more into like somatic movement and like
Mm.
Pilates and Alexander technique and different things like that. And and she's like, but she's like, I'm not gonna be offended if like you keep this going, you know. If I can participate at times and like, hey, I can do this. I was like, bet. So let's do that, you know. So I was like, I
So,
started
like
an
a
LLC.
pickup company versus what, and what are the differences between those two? Just for
Those
context.
are great questions. Yeah, no, I love that. So a pickup company is basically just like a group of dancers who um, are meeting, you know, once or twice a week, like when they're available, and then sort of doing a project together collaboratively,
Mm.
as
Mm.
opposed to like a company that has like a set schedule and has a
Got it.
set season, right? And
Got it.
possibly
Got it. Got
tours or does like, yeah. And so, you know, after that moment, we just started we sort of started it. It became like sort of a, you know, an actual company after that. And I I did I started to do a bunch of the choreography and you know like I always loved how Alvin Ailey like had their company and the ideas behind it as a rep company and sort of hiring other artists to come in to
Oh,
set work
cool.
on the company. And so I was like, let's do a rep company, you know? And so like my goal was like, I know I can't pay the dancers a crap load of money, but if I hire like artists that we all really want to learn from and be in the room with, then that's like another way to sort of give back, right? So
Yeah.
we'd
Yeah.
all get
Yeah.
paid. It was like pseudo pickup, pseudo like real company, you know?
Oh yeah.
And
Like,
then
I
we
mean,
would
you're already kind
all
of blending multiple genres. You're kind of like in between
yeah,
anyway. You know, that's awesome.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we were liminal for sure. Like we were definitely
Yeah.
like living in the in between a lot. Um and so that was how we did it. Like I you know, we tried to find choreographers like along with myself and members of the company who like their movement was hard to categorize, right?
Hmm.
And so it's like you know, for a while, like we're sort of getting labeled as a hip hop company because people knew my background in street dance, right?
Like,
And it's
oh
like,
yeah, it's a
nah,
hip
or
hop thing.
oh yeah,
No,
yeah. And then
no,
like you
it's
go
not.
to a show and you're like, wait, what? Like this is not hip hop, you know? And I'm like, you know, and it's like, no, it's you know, it's a hybrid. There's it's you know, it's multi-layered and yes, there's foundational movement uh in street dance, but like you know there's also foundational movement in concert dance and contemporary, and you'll see you know um you'll see some balletic movement and stuff like that. And it was just you know it was one of those things where it was like okay, like you know what, like you need to categorize this, you know, like as a young artist, like everybody wanted to be like, well, what do we call this, what do we call this, you know? And sort of out of
Yeah.
necessity, like you know that's where urban fusion sort of became the term, which was like hilarious, like it was so funny. But like me Kirby Reed, who's also a choreographer and educator in Chicago,
Hmm.
um he also has set work on instruments and movement. And you know, like both of us were sort of in this like Chicago liminal world where like nobody knew exactly what to call our movement, you know? And
Yeah.
so like I just remember us hanging out and we're like, what are we gonna call this? You know, like you gotta write a grant and the grant wants to know what kind of movement you do, you know, like
You're
what
like,
do we call it?
that's That's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so like I don't know, like I, like I wasn't. It was weird. It was like like I wasn't interested in abandoning like breaking house and rave culture. Like I
Mm,
wasn't interested in abandoning that at all. I wasn't interested in abandoning all the the concert dance elements either, you know, and you know, like all the information that I've gleaned off of all these individuals, like I
mm,
didn't want to just discard it, you know? And so like trying to find this word that might mean what it is. And both Kirby and I were like, what about like urban fusion, you know? And like, okay, you know, and it was funny because like fusion wasn't really like a big word at the time, you know? And then it always makes
interesting.
me wonder is like, or was it and we just didn't notice it until we said it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was just really funny because we're like, all right, urban fusion, that's going to be the thing we do, you know? And I started using it, and then it was hilarious because then I was like, I don't know, like weeks later, I was like V8 fusion and Asian fusion restaurant,
And
and
you're
I was
like,
like,
oh
where's all
man.
this, like, you know, like yeah, you know, and even like you know, because like you know, obviously, like I think Afrofusion, like Kirby's black, so like he um like Afrofusion could have been a like something that he gravitated to, but he felt like a lot of his movement might still have like might lean more to like Europeanist aesthetics, so he didn't want to do that. And then Afro for me, like I'm not black, so I'm not gonna say Afrofusion,
You're
but
like,
we're street kids, you
yeah.
know. So like we live in an urban environment, you know, and so
Hmm.
that's where urban came from, you know, and so like you know it's like this sort of blending of Africanist and Europeanist aesthetics together sort of became this idea of what urban fusion could be, you
Yeah.
know,
The
if
bridge
we
was
had
the
to
fact that you're both
categorize.
urban. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. And so like that was what we thought way back then, you know, and that's where the word sort of came from. But
Yeah.
like it's so funny because like I still feel this way, but like, you know, like I don't know if it was Bruce Lee or something, but it was like, you know, to like categorize something is to like limit it, you know?
Hmm.
And it's um like I always feel like, you know, I like to be I like my movement to be hard to categorize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not just one thing, but it's many things. Um and the fact that people have a hard time identifying what those things are, I think is awesome. You
Yeah.
know, it's like I can't put my finger on what he does, but
Yeah.
I gravitate to it. You know what I mean? Or I don't
Yeah.
know how to yeah, I don't know how to dissect what he creates, but it's evocative nonetheless, you know? So it's not,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, yeah. And I kind of
The-
feel like that's what, yeah, go ahead.
No, no, I think it's really
Oh,
interesting because like there's like this wall where it's like from one end of the side of one end of the wall, you're like, oh man, I don't know how to categorize what I do, and so it feels like you're misunderstood because of the way you move, and then but if you push through that wall, you're like completely embracing it, and you're like, this is myself, like this is all the experiences that I've had, kind of coming through me as movement. And I talked to, I mean, the whole Behind a Dance business, my whole thing is like helping people find and develop their personal style. Like it's like, well, let's not talk about you in a specific genre. Let's talk about you when you're moving purely as yourself. And you might bring in
that's
if you
what's up.
have ballet or like modern or hip hop or Irish dance or whatever, like whatever it is that you
Yeah, yeah,
have in your background. Like when you
yeah.
start doing it, it's like this is you because it's like a melting pot of all the things. And if you have no
Yep.
style, it's like completely just raw organic movement. But it's like it's a very hard thing to push through because like it's so much more comfortable being like I
Mm-hmm.
do this checkbox, you know. And so like
Yep.
to say like no, there's not really a box for me is either like I'm like a homeless dancer, you know, or you're like I'm fully like dancing myself, and like I've had the experiences that you've had where it's like you're kind of like, yes, I'm a hip hop dancer and I've done street dance, but I've also done ballet performances, and there's also this modern performance that I did, and then there's the jazz experience, and you're like, so I'm kind of like a day walker, like it's like I'm like walking through all these different areas,
Yeah.
so it's super cool. It's very very cool.
Right
Yeah,
on. Yeah, 100. I like
yeah.
that. That's awesome.
So in your thing, in your bio that I read, it was
Yeah, yeah.
also urban fusion eventually became like the actual style for Chicago Dance Crash, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
How
it's funny. Yeah.
how did that
Yeah.
happen? Like, did you know them already? Did you see them get created? Because I had Eli on the
Yeah.
podcast earlier this year,
Yes.
and I
Yeah.
was like, you said I saw Chicago Dance Crash, and I was like, it's all coming together. know?
I watched that podcast too. So yeah,
I was
shout out
like,
to Eli.
dude,
Yeah,
he's the
yeah, yeah.
best.
Yeah, like what's funny is so I would categorize urban fusion as something that in a timeline of Chicago Dance Crash, they started to embrace it.
Cool.
Um, and then I'll talk about, and then try to keep me on track, but I'll try to talk about what they're doing now.
Okay.
Yeah, because what they're
Okay.
doing now
Interesting.
is also super amazing. Yeah. So
Cool.
like,
Cool. Cool.
so the founders of Chicago Dance Crash at they sort of started around the same time as Instruments of Movement, right?
Okay.
And there was also like there was a company called Impetus, which was an artist named Mikey Rue. Uh, but at the time, I think Crash was we were like these junior companies, and like to survive, a lot of our dancers cohabitated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Makes sense.
and so we like I think Crash at the time was Mark Hackman, um, Marissa Moritz, and then there were like I can't think of some of the other company members at the time, but like they had this really cool sort of like physical theater element to what they were doing. Um, they did this piece called like Kill the Man, which was like uh a street yard game where like you basically like whoever has the ball, like you just try to destroy that human, like I don't know if you ever played that in school or not.
No. No.
um
No.
had a much very like in my day it had a very inappropriate name that I won't say, but
Okay. Got it.
anybody my age would probably know exactly what
Okay.
um that the name of that game was. But like they did this amazing, it was like physical theater, uh capoeira, uh wrestling, like stage combat and dance, and it
Sick.
was like I was like this is so dope. And so we like I feel like those three companies, like we sort of um like tried to propel each other like
Mm,
through competition and staying involved in each other's work, right? So
yeah.
um there were times I danced for Impetus, there were times I set work for Crash, there were times that at one point I think there's been times where I think there was, let's see, uh um Kyle, Mouse, Mark, Jess, there were at least four of their artistic directors that danced regularly for Instruments of Movement. And I think
Oh, interesting.
yeah, and so like we would produce these shows, and I think you naturally start to glean information. And then Jess Dare was the artistic director for I want to say over 10 years now. She just recently retired, and KC Beavis has now taken over, maybe 2 years now.
Got it.
Don't quote me, but yeah, there was like there was like this moment where I feel like Jess and Mark was still like on the board of directors and whatnot, where they were like, I wasn't in Chicago anymore, and they're like, we really want to sort of embrace that urban fusion style and use that sort of verbiage, and they just sort of wanted to, you know, like use that definition or a way of describing what they do um, with that sort of term,
Mhm.
and in many ways, like they elevated it and they used a lot of the foundational stuff, and I had no beef with that at all. I was like, yeah, and then they would they gave me credit. They were just like, hey, this is something that James Morrow, did. We've been, we've absorbed this information and it's helping us creating our work, and we want to give props because, like I don't know, in Crash, I've probably I've choreographed at least, I don't know, 6, 7 different dances for that company as
Cool.
just a guest artist over time, and so yeah, so like that was sort of how like that verbiage came to be. But now like Casey's really sort of rooted it in like street dance vernacular. So like I
Oh.
feel like I feel like they still embrace concert dance elements and contemporary movement, but their foundation now, like their roots, are literally like, you know, all social dance vernacular. So like you like they have like, hardcore breakers like
Mm.
that like are rooted in breaking elements, um uh voguing, whacking, house, like, you know, like the last project I did with them, Immortal Games, like there was like this dude who was like just such an amazing house head, and I was just like, oh, I just love the way you move. Like there's just like this fluidity in the way that like he would just move through space. I was just like,
Yeah.
and and so yeah, and so like now, like I feel like Crash, like Crash is very much like what Casey is doing very much now is like, you know like it's her vision now. You know what I mean? Like and I think they just had like Cameron McKenney just did a work on them, and Cameron ebbs and flows between contemporary and street dance vernacular as well. So, like there's still like those elements, but I think the dancers themselves are very rooted in street dance, as I think in past years there were dancers who were rooted in mostly contemporary foundations,
Mm.
but were also really good street dancers, but maybe it wasn't their foundation, like maybe they
Interesting.
were partiers as opposed to like, this is, this is
Yeah,
my
yeah.
area of study. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
totally, totally.
yeah, yeah.
Especially because
So
even
I
what
hope
you
that
said.
helps it a little bit.
No, absolutely. Especially,
Yeah.
well, first of all, just going to the last thing you said, like how you can have an area of study in street dance.
Oh,
Like there
heck yeah.
is like it's like
Yeah.
there's so much study like that people don't really even realize that it's like, oh yeah, there's
Hmm.
hip hop, and it's like it's kind of not just doing hip hop because then you try it and you're
Yeah.
like, wait, what? And you're like, yeah, it's like you feel
Hello.
the same
Yeah.
way that I feel when I'm going to a different area instead of like modern or ballet. It's like you have to kind of like shift gears mentally and physically.
Hmm.
But it's
Oh,
also
yeah.
kind of it's also very refreshing to know that like I mean I'm very biased obviously, but like how Chicago Dance Crash kind of leaned more into the street area after having like if they had like they're part of two different worlds going to like hey we're gonna
Hmm.
put it in like street dance urban type of movement as opposed to like the fusion side of urban fusion, so a lot of times it's like well now we're going to like real dance and it's like we're doing concert and technique and you're like
Hmm.
well which you totally blew my mind earlier because you're like yeah you
Yep.
just need technique and I'm like when you say technique, what do
Yeah.
you mean? Like the like what I'm
Exactly.
doing has technique, and so it's like when you say technique, it's like oh, it's not a technique dance, and you're like so you mean
Hmm.
like ballet, jazz, lyrical, like the modern, like these are technique dances, but you don't need technique for these other things, and it's like clearly you've never actually taken the style or ever tried to dance the style because it takes so much. So
It's
yeah,
so true.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
there
really
is
cool.
like there's something about that like, like legitimization. It's like I have to
Yeah.
like like if I don't do an arabesque like properly, in this dance work, then it's not legitimate. You know what I mean?
Uh,
Or, like yeah, there were times, like I just remember there were times, and even, there were times that like I might have like even thought that that was correct, but like, oh, you need to have your feet pointed. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, no,
and,
I don't.
and you
you
go into
know,
like
it,
contemporary
it
modern
just makes
dances where it's like,
it
hey, I
makes a
want
very beautiful line, and it's like, but maybe that's not what I'm
it,
trying to emulate right now. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And
yeah,
so it's like the I feel like the level of critical thinking like was just not really apparent back then. You know what I
mm,
mean?
that's a good way to
Like,
say that. Yeah,
yeah, I think in some spaces it was, you know what I mean? But I think there was just like this is what, you know, big companies do. Like in Chicago, it was like Joffrey, Hubbard Street, River North,
mm,
you know, Giordano's, Joe Hall, Deeply Rooted. Like those were like, those are companies that like I would think were like badass back then. You know what I mean? And like they were pointing their feet. They had long lines. You know what I
like
mean?
they're
And
legitimate.
like
So in order for me to be legitimate, I need to do what they're doing. And you're like, well,
exactly.
well,
Yeah. And so I really like it, it took a lot of like I think courage, and I think sort of having a
absolutely.
chip on your shoulder. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the chip helped propel me in a lot of ways, to
Mm,
push against those like sort of what was considered norms in the Chicago dance scene at that time. And what those companies do is amazing, but like it wasn't and I danced for Joel and I danced for Deeply Rooted, but like I I really wanted to do something that felt like as much me as possible and as much
yeah,
the people in the room that I was working with as
yeah,
possible. And like, yeah, at times, like, you know, we pointed our feet and at times we didn't. You know what I mean? Like, it seems so derivative to like base it on those two things, but like, I don't know. There was something like those nuances seem to be it seems so minimal now, but back then like not being able to be categorized was, you know like real edgy. You know what I mean? Like I don't think it's that edgy anymore, like
yeah.
there's
I
so many
think,
people like doing so many things, and it's like I
yeah.
think the internet helps with that.
Yes, it's just
Yeah,
about to. Yeah,
because you get out, like you see what people are making.
and then you're
And
like,
back then it
I'm,
was like,
yeah.
yeah.
No, it's like I have inspirations, or I'm now learning from someone who has learned from multiple people. So even
Yep.
my direct source material is something that's melded from multiple things. So it's like
Right.
now it's even more like I can just kind of not do whatever I want. That sounds very frivolous, but it's like I can do the things that make my body feel like my body. It's
Yeah.
very, yeah, it's freedom. It really is. It's cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's a
It,
really
it,
cool evolution that the new generation has been able to adopt. That it's like I'm kind of yeah. And I'm like, you didn't really say anything, but I understand. Like when I see you move, I'm like, that's very yourself. It's cool.
well,
It's very
it
cool.
seems like the theme is liminal, like these in between spaces, where like
Mm,
you don't feel anchored, you know, and like you feel like there's a way of passing through, you
mm,
know, and I think like we didn't know that that was an option, and so we felt like we needed to create it as an option. We had to make that space happen.
yeah,
And I think that was one of the special things about that particular moment in my sort of dance world you know
yeah. That's cool. That's so cool. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's, yeah, it's a very, it's for if no one else, for me, like it's totally validating my whole dance journey. That it's like I had this I did this music video for this girl who was doing a cover of a song. It's a long story, but essentially, while we were talking about that, we were talking about different styles and genres and stuff. And she's like, "Yeah, you kind of like dance in the cracks between genres." And
Word.
I was like, bruh, like I never had words for it until she said that sentence, and I was like, that's
Yeah.
what it is. It's like you said, liminal is a great word for it, but it's like the way she phrased it was like, that's exactly like I have borrowed from all these things, so I'm like kind of like sliding through the cracks, and I'm like, this is like no man's
Yeah.
land, and I love it, you know. So yeah,
And that fluidity is what's up. I like
yeah.
that.
Hey man, thank you so much for taking the time to just share
Yeah.
all that experience, all that knowledge. Like, I understand why you're a professor now. Like, it's very, it's very, I would have loved to have you as a professor. I'm so angry. Yeah, no, but seriously, do you have like a
Say
social
that to
media?
my students right now.
That's facts. That's true. That's true. I didn't ever have to do it for a grade. So you win some, you lose some.
Right,
Take
right.
notes. Good luck with your finals.
Yeah.
Yeah. But is there like
Word.
like anything we can follow you on, like social media wise, like Instagram, or do you have a preference?
Yeah, I mean, I'm old, so I'm on the Facebook. so if you look up James Morrow, I'm on Facebook, and then
Cool.
on Instagram, please, yeah, hit me up on Instagram.
Cool.
I'm at J2SL3. So Jimmy Two Steps Low Three. Those were like sort of my breaker names back in the day. And
Sick.
then yeah,
The
yeah.
lore. The lore is real.
Yeah, yeah. And then what's funny is Low Three is actually the residency I did for my MFA. So there's
Cool.
like they're like sort of tied together.
Cool.
And then obviously, join the Xanderverse.
Yes. Shameless dad plug.
Subscribe, please. Please subscribe. It would be amazing. Like we're trying to get him to 200 subscribers by the end of the summer. So,
Oh.
this would be amazing. If anybody, just please do it. You don't have to watch every single video, but like it means the world to that kid. And as someone who's neurospicy, that kid, you just have no idea like how moved he is every time he sees a
Oh.
new person subscribe. It just like he glows.
Oh.
Um yeah, and then I do have a website. So, jamesmorrowthemovement.com. So, and I have like if you like visual art, like I'll, tell me you saw me on Beat Hunter. I make you a good deal. No doubt. I
Hey.
got you. I got you,
Use the promo
And
code.
yeah, promo code. Yeah.
I love it.
Joel Casanova. Yeah,
Yeah.
so like just like hit me up. Like that would be dope. I think those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Perfect.
I love to share my passion. I do residencies everywhere. I work within so many different budgets. So,
Sick.
like really I'm at a place where I can teach and I love to do that and I love to create and if if you're open to gleaning information off of me, then I'm more than willing to share it.
Sick.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you
man.
so much. I appreciate it.
No,
Yeah.
thank you for having me. This was dope.
Yeah.
So
He is one of the few people that you can't really have a conversation with him and not walk away smiling. He's so fun. A few things that I took for my own self. One of the first few things he said was problem solving yourself. Where we try to, like in his experience, there's pros and cons to it, but there's a moment where it's so organic that you're just trying to figure it out, and that experience changes how you dance and how you approach yourself. When you're problem solving yourself, you're experimenting with what you're able to do and figuring out challenges on not on your own like you're by yourself, but on your own as in for yourself. There's a lot of really strong schools of thought, I guess you could say, when it comes to teaching. And we're kind of fed a lot of things in the 21st century. And so it might be really good and really healthy for people to kind of step back and really think about, like, okay, it's good to be taught, and you need people above you to teach you, which is good. But sometimes we need to do it by ourselves, because the journey of solving it for ourselves is really what we need. I think that's very important. The other thing was um, all all dance takes technique. You know, there's a, like, okay, this is technique and this is something else, right? Like we have ballet, jazz, tap, modern, lyrical, contemporary, blah blah blah, and those are technique dances because they have a technique to them. And then we have everything else where it's like basically hip hop, right? So like hip hop, urban styles, whacking, locking, popping, breaking. It's like there is a technique to do all of it. You need some type of training or some type of experience or some type of like vernacular for that style. They're all different languages. So in the same way that different languages have grammar, like grammatical structure, each dance style has its own grammar, if you could think of it that way, or different words, or yeah, vocabulary words for that style. And so it takes technique to understand them. And so I'm like, that one specific point that he made really took me back, because I realized how much I've said technique styles versus, or like hip hop doesn't really have a technique to it. So it's easier for people. I'm like, no, the hip hop just has a technique that is way more civilian. It's much easier. It's a much easier entrance to be like, okay, I'm going to start this, but it takes a lifetime to master, just like any other style. And so that's a really, in the same way that Yaya Benkova, we were talking about the difference between dancers and non-dancers, and it's like we like to categorize people. Really, that's really what it is that we're doing. We're trying to figure out what box you fit in, for my mind, to easily identify you. And it's like, if I'm dancing and someone else is dancing, you might say, okay, this dancer has a much better technique to them, or this dancer has been dancing for much longer, or this dancer does things in hip hop a lot more often than other styles, and this other dancer maybe doesn't have as much experience, or maybe doesn't have the technique down as well, or maybe it has a different kind of background, or they don't have any style, so they're just being the raw version of themselves. But you wouldn't say one is dancing and the other one isn't. So where do we get that? So the idea of technique happening um is a really cool conversation to get into. And the last thing that he brought up was baseball versus dance, and he was talking about how dance was a combination or a combo of information and fulfillment. And that is such a cool thing, because information we need as humans. In fact, we want to learn. We need to learn. We are always learning about something at some time. Even if you're like, I just go to work and then I do something that I always do every time, and then I go home and then I watch Netflix. You're learning about the show that you're watching. You're learning about story structure. You're learning about something. You can spout off all the different episodes of Friends and when Jennifer Aniston was married to this other person, and then broke up, and then the lore of the whole thing. You're learning. You're learning at that point. We need information to learn from. But fulfillment is also like, why am I doing it, and why is it personal to me? If you're like a script writer, you might watch shows and TV and movies and read books in order to understand story for something that you're doing, because writing or script writing or novel writing or movie writing or theater writing is what you gravitate towards. And that's a beautiful thing. It's fulfilling to you. And in dance, we have the privilege of having information that we're learning, fulfillment for our own personal lives, and we're also doing it in our bodies. So it's like a mind, heart, body trifecta. It's like through my body, I'm gaining information and fulfillment at the same time. So I'm like clicking with myself, which is so cool. So anyways, those are the three things that I took away from. And it's really very last thing is the idea of non-technical versus technical, right? When you are a dancer or you are a person entering to dance for the first time, when you start dancing for the first time, there's a temptation to be like, I am behind, which no one is behind. Martha Graham, who pioneered modern dance, was like 30, 36, even maybe later, right? So you're fine. Okay, there is no late start. Okay, number one. Number two, there's a leg up that you have, ironically, which is like the reverse. You have like almost like a leg up on the fact that you are dancing outside of a technique, and you're gaining technique in yourself and in a style immediately. And so there's a benefit to that because you are gaining something that people who dance all the time and dance rigorously are trying to accomplish. Like, I want to return, I've gotten my training, I want to return back to this organic feeling of being myself. And when you're starting for the first time, you have no other choice but to be yourself. Ironically, the technique and the training and the classes can get in the way of you being yourself. So really embrace that. Think about the weakness that is actually the biggest strength you have as a beginner dancer. So I hope that helps. I hope you gain something else from the conversation. If there's something else besides what I just said, you should definitely hit me up. This is his Instagram. You should follow it. James Morrow, Morrow, two O's. This is my information, Beat Hunter Dance, on the Instagrams, as well as my website. You can just hit me up and I will definitely respond because I love talking to people about dance. I can do it all day. I should definitely start a talk show about dance so I can talk about dance every week. Yeah. So yeah, this is what I love. This is what I live for. Hit me up. I'd love to talk. If you want to take classes, I'm about to throw up that information in a second. Remember to not let what you have done get in your way, and what you have done. Hold on. Don't let what you have done already get in your way of being yourself. But don't let not like your little experience, having a little to zero experience, get in your way of becoming yourself. Both of them can be hindrances. So you need no hindrances. You're the only person that can hinder yourself, so don't do that. We need you in the world. You're awesome. I haven't even met you and you're awesome. And some people who are watching this, I have met you and I know you're awesome, so it's like good. Yeah, have a great day. I am going to see you Monday, or you and I will have a conversation face to face, or face to camera to face. Okay, have a great day.